Hare Krishna, can you hear me?
Haribol, Prabhuji. Yeah, that sound is really good.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om
Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
So we're continuing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Now we're on 42 of chapter 30 of the fourth canto. Okay. So this is Nama Samaya Shudhaya Purushaya Parayacha Vasudevaya Satvaya Tubhyam Bhagavate Namaha. Would anyone like to chant that?
Yes, Prabhuji. Namaha samaya shuddhaya purushaya paraya cha vasudevaya sattvaya tubhyam bhagavate namaha.
Nama Samaya Sudhaya Purushaya Paraya Cha Vasudevaya Satvaya Tubhyam Bhagavate Namah.
Namah
Very
samaya
good.
shuddhaya purushaya paraya cha vasudevaya sattvaya tubhyam bhagavate namaha.
नमः समाय शुद्धाय पुरुषाय पराय च वासुदेवाय सत्वाय तुभ्यं भागवते नमः.
Very good. I'm just trying to get my lighting fixed here. There we go. Okay. So Namaha means we offer our respectful obeisances. We know that one. Samaya, also like Krishna says, Samaham Sarva Bhuteshu, one who is equal to everyone. Shudhaya, who is never contaminated by sinful activities. Purushaya, unto the Supreme Person. Paraya, transcendental. Cha, also. Vasudevaya, living everywhere. So that's a literal meaning of Vasudevaya. Satvaya, who is in the transcendental position. Tubhyam, unto you. Bhagavate, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Namaha, obeisance. So the prachetas continue. My Lord, you have no enemies or friends. Therefore, you are equal to everyone. You cannot be contaminated by sinful activities, and your transcendental form is always beyond material creation. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead because you remain everywhere within all existence. You are consequently known as Vasudeva. We offer you our respectful obeisances. Okay, so we'll read the purport, but there's a very important connection here between this, you have no friends and enemies, and this, that you're always beyond the material creation. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is known as Vasudeva because he lives everywhere. So there's that literal translation. The word Vas means to live. As stated in Brahma Samhita, Ekop Yaso Rachayitum Jagat Andakotim. The Lord, through his plenary portion, enters into each and every universe to create the material manifestation. He also enters into each and every heart. So that we kind of discussed yesterday, right? That He enters into each and every universe. Universes, as we said, like those mustard seeds, come out of the pores of the skin of Mahavishnu. And then he enters into the universe as Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. And then, as it says in the next sentence, he enters into everyone's heart as Kshirodakshayi Vishnu. He also enters into each and every heart in all living entities, and to each and every atom also. Paramanu Chayantarastam. So you can't avoid Krishna. He enters into every atom. Because the Supreme Lord lives everywhere, he is known as Vasudeva. Although he lives everywhere within the material world, he is not contaminated by the modes of material nature. That's a really important point, that we kind of read a sentence like that and just go on to the next sentence. We take it for granted. Yeah, of course, Krishna is transcendental. Part of that, why we go on to the next sentence, is we're not always fully aware of just how all-pervasive the material modes of nature are, and how they affect us practically at every moment. Except when we're really Krishna conscious, but they are so all-pervasive. So that's why it's really significant that Krishna is not affected by them, because we are, and everyone is, and they're in the food that we eat, in the conversations that we have, and how we treat each other. They're in the different suburbs of a city, one more affected by this mode, one more affected by that mode. They're in the different times of the day. They're in the type of things that we drink. They're in the kind of clothes that we wear. They're in the kind of music that we listen to or are attracted to. Also, the food that we're attracted to. So they are really, they're like, a fish is not conscious that the fish is surrounded by water. We're also not conscious of just how all-pervasive the three modes of material nature are, and the different combinations. So it's a big deal when it says that Krishna is not contaminated by the modes of material nature. It's, you could say, he and his great devotees are the only ones. The Lord is therefore described in Ishopanishad as apapa vidham. He is never contaminated by the modes of material nature. When the Lord descends to this planet, he acts in many ways. He kills demons and performs acts not sanctioned by the Vedic principles. That is, acts considered sinful. And, what's an example of Krishna performing acts that don't seem to be sanctioned by Vedic principles and are considered sinful? Any thoughts? Or is everyone, cooking breakfast and getting dressed? And
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Like his Ras Leela pastimes, some people think that that's
okay.
improper. And also, like, you could also think that the way in which he kills he kills not Shishupala,
Bali?
like Shishupala.
Oh, Shishupala.
Well, because he was more inimical in the sense of only chastising him, not really doing anything. So sometimes people can consider that as being not proportionate,
right?
And therefore it's
Right.
like sinful in that way. And of course, Vali in
Right,
Ramayana, you could argue there's things, and then in the
Excellent.
Mahabharata war, there are many things that he does when he protects Arjuna from Jayadratha, and also when Karna is fallen, and so there's lots of things that we could argue. When he lifts up the chariot wheel to destroy Bhishma, when he's claimed that he will not fight in the war. So there's lots of things that you can argue are sinful, but we know that the Lord is
Excellent.
Whatever the
Excellent,
Lord does
Prabhu.
is that Sati.
Yeah, excellent, Prabhu. And that comes up in like the next sentence or two about whatever he does. But those are excellent examples. And as we mentioned in the earlier class, when Krishna seemingly breaks Vedic principles, it is for a higher purpose. It's almost always out of affection for his devotees, and we'll talk about that more. Let's carry on with the purport. Even though he acts in such a way, just as you said, he is never contaminated by his actions. He is therefore described here as Shuddha, meaning always free from contamination. The Lord is also Sama, equal to everyone. In this regard, he states in Bhagavad Gita 9:29, Samoham sarva bhuteshu name dveshosti na priyaha. The Lord has no one as his friend or enemy, and he is equal to all. The word Satvaya indicates that the form of the Lord is not material. It is Satchid Ananda Vigraha. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchid Ananda Vigraha. His body is different from our material bodies. One should not think that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has a material body like ours. Om Agyanat Marandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is a major topic about Krishna having no friends and enemies, and it's something to really try to understand thoroughly, and it's not so easy. Prabhupada only quotes the first part of chapter 9, verse 29, Samoham sarva bhuteshu name dveshosti na priyaha. But then he says, Ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya mayi te teshu chapyaham. But those rules don't apply to devotees. So this is a major topic, right? In the very, very beginning of the seventh chapter, the seventh canto of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Parikshit Maharaj is asking these questions to Sukadeva Goswami. And here's a little, this is from Srila Jiva Goswami, and he talks about how the Lord incarnates specifically to give bliss to his devotees, maintaining the universe and siding with the demigods is coincidental to that mission and is carried out through his Maya Shakti. Okay, so that sentence is really important, isn't it? Krishna wants to reciprocate with his devotees. And then, he maintains the universe. He seemingly sides with the demigods, which doesn't sound like impartiality, but we'll talk about that. And he does that through the material energy, Maya Shakti. So siding with the devotees is an aspect of his unlimited self-satisfaction and does not contradict it as it would be if activities were products of the modes of material nature. Okay, so taking that sentence, the Krishna's love for his devotees and reciprocating with his devotees is not a product of the modes of material nature. We have, in this world, we have friends, we have enemies, basically based on the modes of nature and our ahankara, our false ego. We associate with people that are swajatiya, they're like-minded. Swajati literally means same caste, right? But like-minded. And people that we don't like are people that have a very different worldview. Like, just look, excuse me. Just look at the politics today in the world, right? Especially in America, but in so many different places. People consider one party their friend, one party their enemy. And that's not because they're transcendental. It's because, excuse me, it's because they have a false ego, and the false ego, which is entwined in the modes of material nature, attracts them to this and repels them from that. That's in this world. But Krishna's relationship with his devotees and his reciprocation with his devotees is not within the modes of material nature. Jiva Goswami continues, his gratefulness to his devotees, who lovingly surrender everything for his pleasure, as well as the joy he feels when he destroys their suffering and increases their happiness, are all workings of his internal energy. Okay, so they're not of this world, all those reciprocations with Krishna. Thus it is said in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, this is 1086-59, that the Supreme Lord is devoted to his devotees. And Vishnu also says the same thing to Durvasa Muni in the 9th canto. Okay, so let's first make that really, try to make that crystal clear in our mind and in our heart. And it's interesting that it says here that he destroys their suffering and increases their happiness. So, well, wait a second. Parikshit Maharaj was cursed to die in 7 days, and the Pandavas went through hell. So what gives there? And I think we know the answer, at least theoretically, that Krishna he reciprocates in the heart, and the devotee literally doesn't feel the suffering as suffering. Now, that doesn't mean they don't feel pain. I mean, that's a whole nother topic. I don't know. I just thought of. I don't know if we want to get into that, but as a side note, we call it the Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. But if we just think that Prabhupada is transcendental and he didn't really experience pain when he had the 2 heart attacks on the Jaladuta, or didn't experience disappointment when a disciple left Krishna consciousness and things, I think that takes away from Prabhupada's glory rather than increases it. Because we could just say Lilamrita, oh, it was just Prabhupada's Leela. Yes, but I think it's a greater appreciation for Prabhupada. He experienced those 2 heart attacks. He overcame all that adversity. Similarly with the Pandavas. And there's others that suffered externally that Prabhupada pushed on despite the obstacles because of his devotion. And as he once said, he was always feeling the association of his Guru Maharaj. So Krishna can say that he destroys the suffering and increases the happiness of devotees, and not be lying because because the devotee feels his reciprocation with the Lord, and that transcends any the external so-called sufferings of this world. So this is Krishna, samoham sarvabhuteshu name dveshyosi na priya. I'm equal to everyone. No one is dvesha, no one is priya, and no one he hates, no one he loves. But then he talks about a different category, totally different category. That's on the Maya Shakti side, but then on the Swarup Siddhi side, the spiritual side, ye bhajanti, but those who worship me, bhakti, ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya, and are my devotee, maite teshu, I am in them and they are in me. So this is important to make this distinction. So, and we'll go on to talk about Krishna's impartiality in a minute, but let's just see if you have any questions, comments so far on this point about friends and enemies and the devotee being in a different category.
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam. One example that I can
Hare
think of
Krishna.
his equalness is how everyone on the battlefield of Kurukshetra who left their bodies, they attained the higher realm. He was not being looking at whether they belonged, whether they were supporting the Pandavas, or whether they opposing them or doing anything. So in that way, he was showing. But still, when it came to protection, the Pandavas were afforded much more than anybody else. So they're the devotees. That when he talks about that reciprocation in that verse, for me, that kind of illustrates that verse very nicely. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Maybe Prabhu. Yes. Excellent. Yes. Others? Okay, let's go on to this point. So, Jiva Goswami continues, despite his having neither a favorite nor dearmost friend, and even though he never considers anyone despicable or worthy of neglect, he nevertheless reciprocates with his devotees' loving worship. His devotees are therefore exceptions to his impartiality. Okay, that's a big sentence. His devotees are therefore exceptions to his impartiality. Rather than creating a contradiction, his finding pleasure in serving his devotees is actually the essence of his internal pleasure-giving potency, which is free from contact with his material energy, the source of inebrities. Yet the Lord shows enmity towards those who hate his devotees. There's no fault in that enmity. Rather, this mood nourishes his affection for his devotees and is a special exaltation of his ecstasy. So, but in this world, how does Krishna act neutrally? He empowers the modes of material nature, because the modes of material nature are actually inert matter, okay? But they're given their energy by Krishna. And so Krishna's not directly dealing with the material world, but he's dealing with it through the modes of material nature. And then people, and so if someone in the mode of goodness lives in a certain way, someone affected by the mode of passion, someone affected by the mode of ignorance. And we see today, we don't, again, mention names, but it's not always that someone in goodness turns out to be the victor, right? We see that at least temporarily, people sometimes in the modes of passion and ignorance, they seem to rule the world or seem to be happier or seem to be richer or whatever. Although we know from Bhagavad Gita that is a certain kind of happiness, a happiness that is nectar in the beginning and poison in the end, whereas happiness in the mode of goodness is poison in the beginning and nectar in the end, right? It's difficult sometimes to, just try to be in the mode of goodness constantly and see how challenging it is. So Krishna isn't favoring somebody, so often people who come to our temples and things, or just any church or mosque or synagogue or whatever, they think, it's God's favor if their child gets into the top university, or they, their business goes north like anything and goes great. It's more likely basically their karma. And so Krishna's not favoring somebody by giving them, a big house or something. It's he's samaham sarvabhuteshu in terms of this world. But his real favoring is his reciprocation with devotees, and that's why we're on this call at 7:30 in the morning, getting ready to go to work, or interrupting our day for this, because or the reason we pick up our beads, or the reason that we're in Krishna consciousness, we have felt that reciprocation, maybe not constantly, depending on our level of spiritual advancement, but we've tasted that. And just like in the first canto, chapter 5, I think it's verses 17 and 19. If anyone could find those verses, I think it's 5, right? 1, 5, 17, and 19. That would be great, and read them out loud. It's hard to forget Krishna. It's really hard. Even in those 2 verses, it basically says that even if you go through some troubles and fall downs in your life, having once tasted Krishna consciousness, you remember that again and again. So,
Okay.
Anyone have it?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So 1:5:17.
Yes.
I'll just read the translation, or should I read the word? One who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in devotional service of the Lord may sometime fall down while in an immature stage, yet there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, does not gain anything. That is 17.
Good.
And then 19
And then
is,
19?
my dear Vyasa, even though a devotee of Lord Krishna sometimes fall down somehow or another, he certainly does not undergo material existence like others, fruitive workers, because a person who has once relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again.
Yes. So we've all experienced reciprocation with Krishna, to different times in our life, to lesser and greater amounts. But that's why we, are attempting to become devotees, because we felt that reciprocation. That is above the modes of material nature. That's not because we somehow by chance fell into the mode of goodness. That's because Krishna is reciprocating with us. So we could say on one level, Krishna consciousness means to experience that reciprocation more and more and more until we come, to a level of a devotee where we're feeling Krishna's presence in our life nonstop. So Krishna is not favorable to one person. He just said he puts devotees in a special category, and in this world, it's our karma. It's up to us. It's the different modes of material nature working. So that's one of the key points in this verse. So comments, questions, thoughts about this, and if you want more, please look at the beginning of the 7th canto of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and Prabhupada has amazing purports in there also. I might, while we're taking questions, I might look for 1 or 2 that help us understand this a little bit better. So, by questions, comments?
Prabhu, Haribol, this is Jamuna Jasi here. Prabhu, just as you were about to change the topic, you mentioned something about that we want to feel Krishna's presence with us non-stop.
That'd be nice.
Is that actually even possible, Prabhuji, to feel that in our current physical body non-stop? Like, and the reason I ask is because I have on occasion felt the physical presence of Krishna, and it was fairly intense. And I'm just thinking, if one was trying to prolong that feeling through an entire day, I don't know if I'm making sense, but how could you do anything? How could you actually move in the material world when you're that ecstatic, non-stop? That's my question.
Well, gosh, there's a few things to say about that. The first one that you said, as you were speaking, different things came in my mind. Now I can't remember the first one. What was it? Something to do with Srila Prabhupada. Oh, yes. So the first thing that came to my mind is something that Satchidananda Maharaj mentions in his book, that when Prabhupada was in Germany, Satchidananda Swami kind of climbed the wall of the temple and looked into the window, and he saw Prabhupada sleeping, and he saw Prabhupada chanting in his sleep. And it completely... So that was your first point, is can you be Krishna conscious, feel Krishna conscious, Krishna's presence 24/7? And he was just shocked by seeing that Prabhupada's lips were kind of moving a little bit, and it was clear that he was chanting, and he was asleep. So can you? Then the next thing that came to my mind as you were talking is in the Nectar of Devotion. It talks about, this is still on the level of sadhana, but in the practice of Raganuga Bhakti, one continues to act the words that Prabhupada uses is one continues to act as a neophyte. Or what that means is, if you're practicing Rag, Marg, you're still going to pick up your beads and chant Hare Krishna. You're still going to worship the deities. You're still going to honor Prasadam and all those things. But there's a more intense focus. And so even if one is on a very high level, just like Mother Yashoda, she was still cooking for Krishna and bathing him and doing all those things, even though she was in total ecstasy. Arjuna was still expertly fighting in Kurukshetra, and he was following Krishna's instruction. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmar yudhyacha, remember me and then fight. That's what Krishna told Arjuna. So feel that reciprocal. Krishna was right there on the chariot with him, so he felt it. So what you may have experienced was some special mercy that or I can't say what you experienced. I'm not you. But it is possible to do that. Even we see with Prabhupada, he was obviously always feeling Krishna's presence, and yet he was keeping track, like when he in his diary, he kept track of every dollar that he spent, and he was keeping tabs of things like that, and finances, how much he spent on a stamp to send a letter to somebody, and how he so expertly negotiated, tried to help the devotees not get cheated by Mr. Nair in Mumbai. So he was as he said, I'm a Calcutta boy. He said, so he knew the ways of the world, and yet was obviously a great devotee. So I think it sounds like, from examples in Krishna's Leela, it's there. What about Janaka Maharaj? He was just into Krishna Bhakti, but he ran the kingdom perfectly. Maharaj Parikshit, Maharaj Yudhisthira, they did their duties expertly and were always remembering Krishna. So yeah, don't worry about it too much. If you come to that come across that problem of just being in ecstasy all the time because you're feeling Krishna's reciprocation, then we can talk more and see if we need to make some adjustments. Is that all right?
Thank you, Prabhu. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Other thoughts, questions, comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Kadambini Radha here.
Yes.
Now,
Yes,
we remember Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, and the devotees have seen when he was sleeping. And when he was sleeping, they took the photographs, and he was doing his deity worship. He was so much attached to the deity worship that even in his sleep, he was worshipping his deities. So that sort of consciousness, the devotees who are at very, very high level, they can feel the presence of the Lord, whether they are sleeping or whether they are doing anything. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Well, it's a very good example because, this devotees, we used to joke, not joke, but appreciate that in the main temple in Sant Nagar, east of Kailash, that Maharaj knew everything that happened in every nook and corner of that property. He had his eyes and ears everywhere, and he also dealt with the material energy. He opened 19 temples in Delhi. And that took a lot of negotiation and dealing with people and getting donations and all those things. So he was a quintessential manager. I experienced that often in Vrindavan as well. So he was dealing with headaches and problems and all this, and then, as you said, in his sleep he's worshiping Radha and Krishna. So he's a good example of that. A very good example of that. Thank you for that. Other comments, questions? Well, then let's look at the rest. Let's look at this purport. Okay, so then we'll switch from this point. It's a deep thing, a deep point, and Prabhupada and our previous acharyas comment, and Sukadeva Goswami. It's a major topic in the beginning of the 7th canto, and so it's something really important to understand. Was he being impartial when he killed Hiranyakashipu? And so many topics like that. So if you're interested more in this point about friends and enemies, because we're also directed to not think as far as possible in terms of friends and enemies. And we talked about that also in the temple the other day, that if you do consider someone an enemy, then probably the best thing is to respect them from a distance and try not to get into the dualities of friends and enemies. Now, that doesn't mean we don't have friendships in Krishna consciousness. It means the categorizing of, because when you like the categorizing of friends versus enemy, in other words, the duality, having friends in general and having friends in Krishna consciousness is another topic. And I think we spoke about that the other day. It's so important to have friendships in Krishna consciousness. Yeah. A matter of fact, maybe why don't we be a little spontaneous here? Well, let's see if my PowerPoint comes up. I gave a presentation on friendship recently. And okay, here we go. Let's see. Let's talk about that for a minute. Okay, can you? I hope you can see that now. I'll breeze through it. This is an hour-long presentation, but I like this. A real friend is one who walks in when the rest of the world walks out. There is nothing on this earth more to be prized than true friendship. The best time to make friends is before you need them. And I like this point about friendship as a verb. We know that it's a noun, right? Literally, if we know English language, but it's a verb in the sense that it's something we should work on. If we don't have close friends, or or we don't, feel that there's some lacking, you actually have to work on it. Don't just think it's going to be, rain from the heavens, but, think of people that you have this. And by the way, this word swajatiya, it can be applied in Krishna consciousness, like-minded. Swajatiya snighasya. Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about that. I think it's in this presentation. So it is something to work on. Krishna is our friend. I won't read all of these, but he is Surit. He's Surit, Prabhupada says, is a very intimate friend. But here it says, a friend's, so if you look at the first paragraph, Krishna is always our natural friend. That is stated in Bhagavad Gita, Suridam Sarva Bhutanam. Suridam means Surit. There are many names in Sanskrit for different kinds of friends. One friend is called Bandhu, one is called Mitra, and one is called Surit. So Krishna says, I am Surit, which means such a friend. A friend sincerely wants your happiness. A Surit is a real friend, and Mitra is social friendship. Bandhu is official friendship, but Surit means one actually desires good for his friend. Sincere friend. Krishna is Surit. He's always wishing my good, and he's therefore canvassing me, please surrender unto me. The super soul is our friend. I like this one, right? Goro Surida Sarida, that the spiritual master, you should have an attitude of firm friendship for the spiritual master. This is specifically, as you can see in the first line, Brahmachari Gurukule, about the Brahmachari, the student. And Krishna has his friends. Krishna says, Bhaktosi me sakacheti, I'm giving you this knowledge because you're my friend. And then my favorite quote, Madhu Mangal, if you give me one more laddu, then I shall be pleased to give you my blessings, so that your friend Radharani will be very much pleased with you. So Krishna has friends. Prabhupada has friendship. I am very glad to know that Anand Prabhu is staying with you. Please offer my dandavats. He is my old godbrother, sincere Vaishnava. Please treat him like your father. Do remain in full cooperation. He is an old friend, Prabhupada writes. And, I won't, So who to make friends with? The next item is Maitra, friendship. A devotee should be friendly to everyone, but his intimate friendships should be with devotees only. With others, he is not intimate with them. The pure devotee gives the greatest respect to the spiritual master and the acharyas, is compassionate to the poor, and makes friendship with persons who are his equals. Friendship should be cemented between persons with mutual interests and understanding. Such persons are said to be swajati, of the same caste. That doesn't, not like varnashram caste necessarily, but just like-minded. And it's important for our spiritual advancement. Having friends is really important. We were just talking with Samendra Prabhu that he was saying some people misunderstand that last line in Narottama Das Thakur's song Ramachandra Sange Narottama Das, that they think it's Lord Ramachandra. No, it's Ramachandra, his friend. There may be stages in friendship. Sometimes we don't know the person. Then maybe they become an acquaintance, then a casual friendship, then maybe a close friendship, and then maybe an intimate friendship. We heard last night that a devotee and his family stayed at another devotee's house for some days, and that just cemented their friendship very closely, even though they live in another city. Mm-hmm. So friendships can develop quickly or over some time. I think I mentioned this before, but my friends like Brahmatirtha Prabhu, we've known each other for probably 40 years. He's Bob Cohen in the Perfect Questions, Perfect Answers, and similarly Yogeshwar Prabhu, who's a close friend. Like that. And my wife is a close friend, 37 years of marriage. What initially starts friendship, sometimes doing service together, having common interests, exchanging the love, just organically happens. Someone just happens to live in your house for 3 days. And how to develop friendships. the 6 loving exchanges: giving gifts, accepting gifts, giving prasadam, accepting prasadam, and especially revealing one's mind in confidence and inquiring confidentially. And we quoted at the temple the other day the letter to Balavanta Prabhu. Prabhupada said, being a good listener and being there, as we say, being there for others is a great way to develop friendships. And accepting them as they are, not trying to change them right away. And avoiding premature advice, right? Yet disturbance, if we have a really close friend and we see them, walking off a cliff, figuratively, if they're really close, we say, my dear friend, what the hell are you thinking? No, that's nonsense. You can say that to someone who you really trust. And of course, acting in trustworthy ways. And it does take time to develop friendships. It takes time. We have such busy lives, but taking time to develop friendships is really important. And of course, showing care, but not becoming codependent. Matter of fact, often when I talk to new couples who are getting married, I say it's really important for the man to have other men friendships, and for the husband to have other men friendships, and the wife to have other female friendships. Otherwise, they cling to each other, and it's not psychologically healthy, and it doesn't usually help the marriage very much. We need other relationships than our spouse. Although, it's important. So, some thoughts, questions, comments on friendship.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much about all the levels of friendship with different people. What I have, my personal experience is that you can be friendly with your children. My daughter can come and she can talk everything to me, and I listen to her. But at the same time, she cannot go and talk the same things with her father. So that sort of friendship is very important, because children should really feel that they can talk everything with their parents and share that. There is no sort of authority that you are a mother or a father and they have to listen to you. But sharing the thoughts and feelings is very important. That's my personal experience. Thank you very much.
You're fortunate. You must be a very expert father, because not even the expert fathers and mothers don't always get that. It's like that, there's that, especially in teenage years. There's that saying, there's that joke that when I was 16, I thought my parents were really dumb. And by the time I turned 25, it's amazing how much they learned in those 9 years. So I'm very happy to hear that from you. The other parents have other experiences, especially it can be, and this is my experience around the world, that first generation immigrants, people that were born in India, then come to America or Australia, and then they have their children are born and raised in in the West. It can be challenging because their experience of parenting is their parents, which is probably very similar for many, many, many generations. And then they come to a different country, and the children have both the influence of the family, but also school and just the culture of the host nation. And it can be very difficult. And sometimes we see that children live one life in front of their parents and a very different life when their parents aren't looking. And that's why I was talking to one of the youths last night who says that they organize these, I forget what, some Bhakti Fest or something like that, which gives youth a chance to kind of speak openly and about some of the challenges in their life. And at least in America, it's often strained relationships for some time with parents because they feel they have to hide some of their the challenge, the struggles, the challenges that they're going through. because their parents are more used to the parenting from India. So that's great. What you just said is fantastic. And it is also, Chandikya Pandit says that after 16 years old, you become their friend. So I don't know if that changes to 13 years old in today's life, but congratulations. That's great that you have that kind of relationship where your child will reveal their heart to you.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Other
Krishna, Prabhu.
thoughts?
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
I have a couple of questions.
Well,
So thanks for sharing that.
well, one at a time, because I'm not very smart.
Yes, you're very smart. I'll just go one at a time. The first one, thanks for sharing that slides on the friendship. And it seems like it was like a full day seminar. And I'm really curious to know that it's something, because my question is, in today's busy world where, like, we're all busy, even with, as you mentioned, husband, wife, both are working. Was there anything came out like, how can we practically cultivate meaningful association? As we, like, something came out from there like that you can share. I know that it was like a whole day, but at the end, like, with something like, as we said, the nuggets of gold nuggets came out that we can apply in this present day and age.
You mean how to find the time to develop friendships?
Yeah. Yes, and there is, and also some ways, like, how, like, 2%, like, what are the things that I can do also in this busy schedule?
Well, yeah, it is. Usually we make time for things that are important to us, right?
Mm.
Right? Or things that give us some kind of relief or escape. Like we might say, I'm so busy. And then we scroll social media for an hour.
Mm.
We don't even know that the time has passed, right? So, making the time. There's different things you can do. I went on a walk with this really nice devotee yesterday around a lake, and I hadn't seen him or really spent time with him since before COVID. And it was just so sweet to hear about what's going on in his life and me telling what's going on in my life. And yeah, and it was very kind of him to approach me and say, hey, Vraj, do you have some time? And I could have been doing 5 other things, but I said, no, this is really important to spend time with him. So it's a question of what we prioritize. And my point here is, first of all, we need friends just for our mental health and well-being, and also for our advancement in Krishna consciousness. I can say for I can say for my son, the reason he's a devotee today is, when he went to, he left Vrindavan and went to go to university in America, and we were still in Vrindavan, so he had no family support. But he went to a place in Texas, both in Dallas and in Houston, where he had really good friends, and it was really friends that kept him in Krishna consciousness. So friendships are on all different ages. But if we, if we're talking about our children, it's so nice if they have devotee friends, and we can, as parents, encourage them to do that, and also as adults, show them the example by taking time and to be to have friendships. So how to do it, whether it's going to Rath Yatras together, or just going taking time to go for a walk, or having japa sessions, whatever works for you. Just taking that time is really important. And what was your second question?
Thank you, Prabhu. The second question is, I'm just remembering back from chapter 6 Bhagavad Gita, like in Krishna like stresses self-effort and discipline, like, Udharatet Atmatmanam, like from 6.5, where like basically, like, you are responsible for your spiritual progress. No one can do it for you. So you should be more focused and you should put more effort on that one. So that is one way of looking. And then obviously here that sadhu sangha, like, how that we have to be in the sangha of with the sadhus, and how powerful it is. So it's basically how we can reconcile that. Like, it's basically like, in one side, we have to also make sure we put so much effort on ourselves to make sure we are doing it. And also at the same time, the association is also there. Is it like need to go both simultaneously?
Well, it can be simultaneously. If you're living in an ashram and you're doing japa together with, all the other devotees, that's one easy way. Although, and I also think some devotees sometimes have online japa sessions. So we can be doing our hearing and chanting together. Some of it also depends a bit on our nature. There's some people who can be really disciplined on their own and go very deep into their sadhana practices. And others really need that upliftment of being with others. Otherwise, they're going to turn on the internet and space out. So, so it also depends, and it's not either or, it's and, right? Prabhupada has famously said, at the very end of our life, we have to fly our own airplane, right? And remember Krishna. And at the same time, when you're leaving your body, if you're surrounded by devotees, who is that? She was Australian, Nanda Tirtha Prabhu's mom, Suchi Rani Mataji. So she was surrounded. She had Burijan Prabhu there, Jagatsrini Mataji there. So she was flying her own plane, but she had co-pilots, so to speak. So it's, one time when Lord Chaitanya is asked, what's the essence of devotion? It's sadhu sangha, sarva shastra hoy. So it is, getting association is super important. And then we also have to, yes, it also is ultimately based on our desire. But one way to both increase our desire is sadhu sangha, and also to exercise our desire is sadhu sangha. Okay.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you.
We have time for maybe one more if somebody has an urgent thing. Otherwise, we can end now.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, please accept my obeisance. Thank you for a very nice interactive session. Because you have been a leader yourself, could you just emphasize the importance of friendship for those in the position of leadership? Is that important? Or in the modern day, in the material world, those in the position of leadership, they say it's better to be distant from your followers. So in devotional life, is that different? Can you share some of your experiences?
No, you don't need to have any friends if you're a leader. Next question. That was a joke. It's probably more important than ever. Imagine, just imagine being a guru and having, let's say, 1,000 disciples. And if you're only associating with your disciples and they're just telling you what a great person you are all the time, that's not a lot of fun, first of all. And it's not very great for anyone, in any devotional practice. So it's really good for people on that level or doing that service to have their friendships and to be with their peers. And their peers who can joke around with them and slap them on the back and tell them, "What are you doing? That's crazy. You shouldn't do that. You should do this." Right? We need, especially as we go up higher, whether it's in we have some people who know about the corporate world here on the call today, or it's lonely at the top, as they say. So it's very good to have peers. So that we should have all three, right? Those who are more advanced than us and more elderly and have their association, and also give kindness to those who are less advanced or more junior, and then we also need peers to have a good relationship with. Just like, you know, the example I like to give is being with Shivaram Maharaj once. You know, so he's a big guru and all that, and so usually, you know, I would assume when he's taking prasadam, people, you know, serve him, and, you know, it's really nice service and all that. But I was once with him, and he was with his friends, and he just said, put the prasadam all in the center of the table. We'll just serve ourselves, cowherd boy style. So that was like a more intimate kind of thing, and it didn't, you know, and that was very sweet. But he wouldn't do that probably with his disciples, right? So yes, leaders need association also. All right. Well, thank you very much for allowing me to give these 3 classes, and to be in your association, and to visit your beautiful new temple and see CC Gaur. I saw CC Gaur maybe 25 years ago, and nice to see them in a permanent home with even room for expansion in that area. So that's great. And Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Disgrace Vraj Vihari Prabhu ki jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.